This week on Art on the Air, our whole feature interview is with a longtime theater personality who has appeared for many years as a professional actress, managed Theater at the Center's box office, served as artistic director for The American Girl, education director for the Towle Theatre, and plus a dear friend, Shelley Crosby. Our spotlight is on Emily Ramirez, director of Memorial Opera House's production of 9 to 5, running through October 3rd.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.
Welcome. You're listening to Art on the Air on WVLP 103.1 FM and Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, our weekly program covering arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. I'm Larry Breckner of New Perspectives Photography, right alongside here with Esther Golden of The Nest in Michigan City.
Aloha, everyone.
We're your hosts for Art on the Air. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Art on the Air streams live at WVLP.org and is rebroadcast on Monday at 5 p.m., plus is also heard on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM every Sunday at 7 p.m., also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Information about Art on the Air is available at our website, breck.com/AOTA. That's Breck, BRECH.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our show is available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for information about upcoming shows and interviews. We'd like to welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight, Emily Ramirez. She is from Houston, Texas, but she is currently at the Memorial Opera House, and she's just opened 9 to 5 at the Memorial Opera House, and they just had their opening weekend this past week, and she's going to talk to us a little about that and how you can still go see the production. Emily, welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Well, real briefly, tell us just a short little bit about yourself, but then we want to talk about the show and some of the things you're doing with it and everything like that. And of course, this is, I think, the Northwest Indiana premiere of it.
Yes.
Yeah, especially how the Memorial Opera House connected with you.
Well, I mean, they were looking for a director. I think there was a search specifically for a female director to tell such a female-led story and bring her point of view into the mix. And I was looking for more opportunities to direct. I've been producing myself for a while now. My background is, as I'm sure you've read, is in ballet and in musical theater and film and comedy, which is what I moved to Chicago for. And I just felt like I had all of the right little tools in my arsenal to bring a lot of fun and a little bit of like pathos to this very fun musical.
It is. It was on Broadway for only like about 140 performances, but, you know, Allison Janney, from most people know from West Wing, and Megan Hilty is another one that was really in that original Broadway show. So approaching the show, you had auditions some time ago, I think back in July. So tell us what you were looking for in the cast.
Well, I think you're looking for something different in everybody. Obviously, everybody always wants especially the three leads, Judy and Violet and Doralee, to have a great chemistry. And obviously, when you have good performers, those people are able to find chemistry no matter what. But I was looking for a very different vibe from each woman. When we're looking at this musical, there's sort of very much like an archetype for each woman that you see represented in the business. And so I wanted to make sure that every woman really had her own flavor and could represent a lot of different things about being a woman in general and being a woman in the workplace especially.
Very good. Tell us also how you got connected. I don't know if you completely answered that, how you got connected to Memorial Opera House, because you're from Texas and I guess moved to Chicago. So tell us that connection.
Yeah. So I moved to Chicago to study at Second City and to perform in musicals. I'm an Actors Equity proud union member. So I moved to Chicago for the performance opportunities as well. And I got more and more interested in producing myself. And so one of the days that I was applying for another director job, I happened upon the application to direct for 9 to 5. And so I reached out to them. And that's how we got connected. They gave me a call back a couple days later, and it seemed like a good fit.
Is this your first time with Memorial Opera House?
It is, yeah.
So you studied at Second City. Are you in the conservatory or
I graduated from the conservatory.
Very
yes.
good. I asked that because my daughter went through the training program and started in the conservatory, but she was going to college and everything, couldn't do all of it. So
yeah, it's a lot. I didn't realize how much I would have to sort of choose between that and musical theater. I thought I could straddle both, and instead I had to take many hiatuses and come back. And performing and learning don't necessarily go hand in hand in that respect. But I learned a lot in both arenas.
So do you have any challenges on doing 9 to 5 in Memorial Opera House?
I think any director has a lot of challenges. I think some challenges that have been unique to this particular experience have been, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. There's a pandemic happening right now. It's pretty inconvenient.
Yes.
And so that's, I think, been our biggest obstacle is just trying to keep everybody safe. People's availability has been less robust than it normally would probably be in the performance arena because people have different levels of concern about all of this. And just trying to navigate the best way to put on a live show around each other and make sure that people are safe, make sure that people's personal levels of concern are addressed, and make sure that our audience is safe when they come to see the show. So I think we've done a pretty good job of that. And then other than that, I would say globally, one of the struggles that I have as a female director and producer is that I am 5'3". I have a sweet little voice and I think I also present a little bit younger than I am. And so one of the things I have issue with from time to time is that you're not you kind of have to do a little bit more legwork sometimes to gain the respect that just being in the position of director should automatically come with. So that's something that there's just a little bit more emotional labor for women from time to time. And what I love about Memorial Opera House is that Scott McDonald, the executive director, Natalie Klobuchar, the artistic coordinator, everybody has been very, very supportive and made me feel very appreciated and respected the talents that I bring into the room. But that's just one of the things globally that I notice as a woman.
Emily, have all the rehearsals been in person or were they Zoomed initially?
They've all been in person. Yeah. And I made the difficult choice to request that everybody in my cast be fully vaccinated, which I know can be polarizing, but we thought that would bring people the most comfort when they were spreading aerosols, singing songs to each other's faces.
Very good. Well, about ready to wrap up. Tell us the show dates again. You had already had your opening weekend, so you're still running through October 3rd?
Yes. Amazing weekend. We're running Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays through October 3rd. Come on out. It's going to be a really, really fun time. We have an incredible cast, really great production value, and I'm just excited to share this story and this show with you guys. So come out and see it.
Thank you so much. That's Emily Ramirez from Memorial Opera House, 9 to 5 and running through October 3rd. Thank you so much for being on Art in the Air Spotlight.
Thank you. It's been a
Emily.
pleasure.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. I'd like to welcome to Art in the Air someone who I've known since the, late 1970s, early 80s. We worked together in theater over the years. We worked at the Center for Visual Performing Arts. We have a long experience together. And she was very, very young at that time, and I was very, very old. Seriously.
No.
Seriously, it's been a great time, and we hope our audience will enjoy. Actress, managing theater, has a whole long career. Please welcome to Art in the Air, Shelley Crosby.
Hello.
Welcome.
Well,
Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Oh my gosh, we haven't seen each other face to face since, I don't know, some meeting that was at the Center for Performing Arts, and you were still working with the education coordinator at Towle. Long time ago. Well,
Long time ago.
So tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, I know it, but our audience would be interested in like where you grew up, kind of your whole history, and before we get into all the theater things, about how that developed. You know, how you got. You know, I always like to say how you got from where you were to where you are now.
Yikes. I grew up in Hammond, Indiana, attended Harding Elementary, and graduated from Hammond Morton High School, which at the time I was there had a very, very wonderful, rich theater community under the direction of Don Edwards and Stanley Elgus at the time. Some people might remember Stanley Elgus from even directing out in Whiting at the I don't think he did Community Showcase, but I know he did Marion Theater Guild.
I remember meeting them both. Yeah.
So they were the guys that were at the helm at Morton, and we got to do some really wonderful shows. We did a my senior year, we did a production of Carnival with the set design by Chicago artist David Lee Sisko, which was one of the most spectacular sets for a high school production I'd ever seen in my entire life. But we had a lot of fun doing that show. And my mother encouraged me to begin auditioning for theater in high school because she always said I was such a ham. But it wasn't everything. It wasn't something that really I had ever considered. But my mom just kept saying, I think you could do this. I think you should. I think you'd have a lot of fun. I think it'd be good for you, is what mothers always say. I think it'd be good for you. It'd be a good outlet for you. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I auditioned and I did a couple shows before we did that musical, but the musical was the big highlight of my 4 years. I was very involved in choir, loved choir, had a great choir teacher, very fortunate with that, who encouraged me. I started to study voice with our choir director from the church I attended, was very involved with Covenant Presbyterian Church in Hammond, Nick Perdicaris. And he was a very opera-oriented voice teacher. And I was a musical theater lover. So I would bring in my vocal selections of Oklahoma and different things like that. And he'd be like, no, but let's try this aria. And I'd be like, no, I want to sing People Will Say We're in Love, And eventually I think I just was like, okay, I love him and he's done great things for me, but I think I need to move on. And then from there, I, kind of floundered around for a little bit, trying to figure out who I was and what I was going to do with my life.
And so what was that you got through school, your post-school, and any college you were like on the horizon at that point?
Well, I went into, again, saw a listing in the newspaper back when you used to see those. And there were auditions for production of Finian's Rainbow at IUN in Gary. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love Finian's Rainbow. I think I want to go audition for that. I don't even care. So I went and I got into the chorus, and it was a spectacular production, spectacular. And full orchestra, just like unbelievable. And it was under the direction of who was at the helm of the theater department then, Garrett Cope, who was wonderful. And then he got me into their dance company. I am not a dancer. I consider myself an actress and singer who just moves well. I know how to plant my feet and deliver a song. Let me put it like that. And when he said that, I was like, all right. So I joined it. And while I was there, I was like, what am I doing? This is not who I am. And I remember, again, that was another one of those instances where I remember that I did it. I remember some of the steps, and I learned tap in order to be in some of those numbers. But I don't have a lot of recollection about actually performing it, if that makes sense. I think I was so overwhelmed by it all, it just like left my brain and left my memory. But then I decided I should possibly go to college. Maybe I should, because I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do. And so I enrolled in as part of the theater department there at IUN, and I only spent a semester there. And that's because, and then I did another production. I did Hello Dolly. I did a Hello Dolly the following summer with them. And then I went, and then I think I joined. And then some of the people that I was in Hello Dolly with were classmates in the semester that I was actually there. During that time, I was working retail.
Doing what?
And just, I worked for Just Jeans in Woodmar Mall.
These are things.
Worked there.
These are things, Esther, I don't know about Shelley. So these are all informative.
My children love to hear about these things. Like my daughter called me even the other day, and she goes, well, actually, her partner Christopher said to me, "Hey, I just heard that your first job was at Taco Bell." and I said, "Yes." And he goes, "I want to hear all about working at Taco Bell." And I said, "Why?" And he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, it was the very first Taco Bell in Northwest Indiana. It was the one there in Hessville by Morton High School. So I had to tell him about all the things we had to do at Taco Bell.
All the behind the scenes.
All the behind the scenes, because it's so different now, where you actually had to like make the beans and you had to, shred the lettuce and the cheese and all the different things and the things that were on the menu that they don't have on the menu anymore. So we had a big conversation about that. So then, then I went to work for Just Jeans. But then I got lured away because my friend said to me, my best friend Joanne, she was working for the Edward C. Minus Company in downtown Hammond in their rugs and curtains department as the assistant buyer. She said, oh, the advertising department here is looking for somebody. What do you think? And I went, that sounds like a better career choice than Just Jeans is what it sounds like. So I went in and I interviewed for it and I got the position. And it was really a marvelous little job. It was a lot of fun. And I got to work with the copywriter and with the graphic designer and learned a lot about, with these big machines that would make all these prints of these photos and then copy the ads. And I got to learn how to do all of that. And I even made some of my own ads. But what I was really being groomed for was this thing called co-op advertising, which was where you work with these different fashion places, so like say Playtex, we would work with Playtex to have like a co-op where they would pay us money for the amount of space that we would have in the newspapers and how many newspapers we were in for their ads. And I was responsible for pulling all of that information together and sending it out to them so that checks would come in, that kind of thing. And at the time, the Edward C. Minus the third, I think, was vice president of the company. And his brother-in-law, Edgar Peglow, was the president of the company. And he was married to Edward's sister, Eleanor. And Edward wanted to send me to Purdue or somewhere to really gain more knowledge about advertising, co-op advertising. And I was on the track to all of that happening. And then he got fired.
Oh, my gosh.
And I went, wait a minute. He's Edward C. Minus. He's getting fired? How does that happen? So that ended that. And then I started, I met my ex-husband and we got married during that time. And then that's when I had children right away.
That happens after marriage, sometimes.
It does sometimes before. And then I saw the production of Music Man at Main Square Park. And I went, why am I not up there? Oh, yes, I just had a baby. So then I waited until the next year and auditioned for The Importance of Being Earnest 2 months after I had another baby.
And, of course, that was with the one and only Greg Ladd.
That was with the one and only Greg Ladd.
Though Chuckles directed that one, right?
Chuckles Brady directed it, yeah. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of fun. It was cold, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that was in deep fall. It was like, oh, my gosh. And that was outdoors, of course, at the gazebo. So
I think it was early. Was it in the fall? It was in the fall. Yeah. Yes, it was in the fall. Mm-hmm.
So then comes your start of the Main Square days.
My start of the Main Square, and then Brigadoon happened, and I was like, yes, I want to be in a production of Brigadoon with a cast of millions.
Yes.
Outside, and that's when it really all started for me, is right then and there, meeting everybody, meeting Greg and jumping on the Main Square Players bandwagon, and it just kind of took off right from there. And
did you join Main Square Singers? Were you part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because Carolyn was Carolyn, who's my wife.
Carolyn was part of that too, and we went around to all the various clubs and stuff like that. And we sang at various places. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
So that's really where your acting started with the old Main Square Players. And for our audience, the Main Square Players actually broke away, I think, after Brigadoon to go out on their own from the Parks Department. It was part of a kind of a co-op between the Highland Parks Department and that, but the Main Square Players kind of flew off on their own and did productions elsewhere. So, and you were in quite a few of them.
I was in a lot of them. Up through 85, I want to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, your mom sure knew, didn't she?
Mom knew. She did. And Mom was always right there. She was right there watching me every step of the way.
Yeah, Betty was there for all the times. She was kind of like a mom to the
seats in front.
She would try. I wouldn't let her. I tried to prevent her from seeing one show one time, you guys, and it makes me giggle. Now that my mother's gone, I can say these things. Because it was a production of falsettos that I did. And at one point I had to say the F word. And I knew that my mother would not approve of that because I had to swear during Bye Bye Birdie, and she wasn't happy with that. But this was the F word. And so I said, Mom, you can't come. You can't come to the show. And she said, why not? And I said, because I say the F word. Well, can't you have them change it? And I said, no, I can't have them change it. And I told her she could not come. And I'm backstage. I'm backstage and I'm waiting to go on, doing my own little thing of prepping before I go on. And the producer walks by and just casually, as she's walking to the backstage bathroom, your mother's here. And I went, what? Your mother's here. I said, she is? And I look out, there sat my mom. She hightailed it out of there at the end of it so I wouldn't see her. So she didn't think I knew that she was there. We never talked about it. Never talked about it.
Oh, I can see that happening. So what are your
right?
What were some of your other favorite memories of Main Square Player days, even after we left the park?
Oh my gosh. Main Square, the fact that it was such a great group of people, yourself included, Larry. We had such a wonderful core group that moved on of incredibly talented people, very dedicated to the goals of Main Square and to creating really wonderful people and our productions. It was wonderful because it was a group effort. That's the one thing about theater is you really watch people come together and just put everything behind putting up a solid show and making sure that it's something worthy of having people come and see. That's what I love.
And you did quite a few of the lead roles there. I
did.
Ava Perone in Evita, Laura in Oklahoma, and some of them after I kind of departed because I started directing at school. So I got a little bit too busy to play theater outside of theater when I was doing that. So I
just have a quick kind of question, and I probably know the answer just from the few minutes we've been together. But since you've done so many musicals, are you like Larry, where you have a song answer for everything? Do you go around singing a lot?
I do. I don't go around singing a lot, but I do. I am one of those where you say something and it sounds like a musical thread to me somewhere. So yes, I make up a lot of songs now, Esther, mostly used to be about my cat. Now it's mostly about my dog. So, I just write music and when I say write music, it just kind of blurts out of my mouth,
So is it recorded? Do you record it either on paper or good?
I record it on my voice memo.
Yay.
So like my dog has a song that we sing every time she wants a belly rub, and it's called It's Time for the Belly Time. So
can you do that for us?
It goes like this. It's time for the belly. It's belly time. It's time for the belly. It's belly time. It's time for the belly. It's belly time. It's Viola's belly time. Hooray!
So you got the germ of a musical there, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So
in fact, my daughter and her husband, my oldest daughter, they have a cabin up in the Catskills in the woods. And they said one day, we need a song. So we wrote a song for them for living in the cabin in the Catskills.
Well, you also wrote for the podcast, didn't you? For Cigarettes.
I did. I wrote
Tab
the
and Tampon.
podcast theme song. Yes.
Such a good podcast.
That's a cute one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're very proud of it. It's a goofy little thing, but we have a lot of fun.
And you can listen to it in our archive for Art in the Air, where we covered that. It was a lot of fun with the good old John Baranowski and who's that other
Sally
girl?
Selwyn. That other girl.
That other girl.
Sally Selwyn girl.
You should say cigarettes, tab, and tampons.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
So, well, you Main Square Players kind of it was. I think Carnival was their last production, kind of as a cohesive.
No,
or at least your last show with them, maybe.
My last show was Evita.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my last show with them was Evita, and I just kind of moved on. And then that's when I got the call about them needing somebody for the Fantastics at the Gallery Players.
Okay. And our audience, explain what the Gallery Players was for people who don't know.
The Gallery Players was a company, a theater company that played out of the gallery at the Northwest Indiana Arts Association, which at the time was housed in it's one of those I think they're doctor's offices now or something like that on Calumet Avenue across from the Munster Donut.
Yeah. They were in that little thing there. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And they were associated with the Northern Indiana Arts Associations. That's why they were the Gallery Players. It was a relatively small and tight group, but that's where you came in contact with Vicki Bussert.
Vicki Bussert. Well, I had met Vicki during the production of Hello, Dolly, and she played Miss Money.
Oh, yeah.
During that. So I met her then, and I knew her mother from Gallery Players, Audrey Bussert, who was a teacher at Munster High School. And I met her through Susan Doherty Bobus, who was doing shows at the Gallery Players. But then somebody had called, I can't remember who, called and said, we would like for you to do this production of the Fantastics in the gallery. It was really cool because it was during one of the showings. It was one of the school showings. So all of the artwork around us at the time we were doing the show were all children's drawings. And it was really cool.
Oh, sweet.
And that's where you came in contact with Richard Lynch, another one of
Richard Lynch. First time I had ever worked with Richard Lynch. He went on to be a very, very good friend and a partner in crime on stage. And he said to me, I'm going to go and audition for this production of Sweeney Todd out at this Equity Theater out in Park Forest. And I said, oh, can I go? I want to audition for that. And he's like, all right, I'll pick you up. So he picked me up and we went out there. And I can remember walking in and I sang, I don't know if you know the show of Carnival very well, Larry, I Hate Him, and it's a duet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I sang only the female side of the duet for my audition.
Not Love Makes the World Go Round. Huh?
Because I hate him. And so it showed my range primarily is why I did it. It went down from my lower range up into some pretty high notes. So I thought, you know what, I'll show them what I can do. And so they called me and they offered me the role of the beggar woman. And I was like, what? So
how did his audition go?
He got in the chorus.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he got in the chorus. And what was really cool was the director, Stephen Billig, and his wife, Towle, are the ones who owned and ran Illinois Theater Center. And at the time, I didn't see Towle very often at the theater because she was in the production of Sunday in the Park with George at the Goodman Theater, which was, So she played George's mother in that and got lots of wonderful recognition. I didn't get to see the production because I was like, what is she doing? And it was like oblivious to me because I was still swirling from being cast as the beggar woman in this production of Sweeney Todd. And our Sweeney was David Perkovich, who I went again on to be in a lot of shows with at Illinois Theater Center, but he's a Chicago actor. And he and his partner owned a gift shop on Michigan Avenue for many, many years. Can't think of the name of it right now, but he was fabulous. He was just fabulous. But it was such a great production. It was a little mind-blowing for me.
You're listening to Art on the Air with our guest Shelley Crosby on WVLP 103.1 FM and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. I'm sure. Well, but that was kind of the start of you being in a professional theater, and the Billigs. They were some kind of an interesting couple. I mean, how they operated this small theater in a little. I mean, eventually got a better space, but it was amazing what they were doing.
Wasn't it amazing the productions that they were able to do in this little basement below the Park Forest Library Theater? And they had such a great following. They had people who just were subscribers for many, many years. And I just loved it. I just loved being there. And I got to play and be a part of so many, many wonderful productions. I was very fortunate.
And you got to pick up your equity card finally.
I did finally get to pick up my equity card. Yes. And so did my daughter. She got her equity card through them as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Tell us what that means, getting your equity card. I know what it means, but our audience may not understand how that process works. And I know it's just changing right now, but
Oh, sure is. It's a little disappointing because back in the day, you used to have to earn points in order to be able to join Actors Equity, and you would pay a certain amount of money up front, and you would become what they call an equity candidate. And that meant they then, based on how many shows you did and what roles you played, you were assigned so many points, and then you would be once you reached that, you would be able to join, and then you'd pay more money to them in order to get your equity card. And then what that did was it provided you with an opportunity to audition for companies, for productions before everybody else. You didn't have to go to any more of what we call cattle calls anymore. You would get an appointment as opposed to having to show up with everybody else. It also meant you got more money in your paycheck.
Right.
But also they took money out because you had to pay your dues. And you had
yes. And then when you got to the halfway point of getting your equity card, you became equity eligible, which was another step up the ladder. So,
correct.
Of course, my advice to a lot of them, and I don't have an equity card, but I always told especially when we were working at Theater at the Center, which we'll get to in a minute, is I said, put off as long as you can to stay equity eligible, because once you have the full card, it's
absolutely.
Yeah, you can't do some of the other stuff.
I did that for a while. I did take my time a little bit, only because what they said was sometimes the union card usually meant the end of your career. You just didn't get, because you were more expensive then, and they wanted to go cheaper.
And if you wanted to do something outside of that in legit theater and did it without equity's permission, they could really slap some fines on you and really make it miserable.
Yeah. Yes, they could.
So when you're equity eligible, did you still get the appointments, or that's not until you had your full equity card?
That's a good question. I don't know that I remember.
I think that depends on the producer, what they want. I mean, I think I think it's tiered. Like they might have their full equities, and then like equity eligibles, and then maybe candidates. Figure that will filter out the the wannabes that aren't really terribly serious about it. So
correct,
but
maybe
But the Illinois Theater Center was such a great door opener for you in terms of doing stuff like that.
I got really, really lucky, Larry. It was really those years I count as being some of the best years of my life.
It was a great company, yeah. It's and unfortunately it came to an end. I mean, it was some tragedy involved in that, and it was sad.
There sure was. 25 years ago today, my Stephen, that my mentor, my director, my friend, my father figure, he was murdered, and that was a real rough time to go through. Yeah, it was awful.
Tragic.
Awful.
But kind of overlapping that, you had another part of your career where you started at the Center for Visual Performing Arts, which we kind of reconnected. So tell us about that. That was in the early 90s.
Early 90s. Yeah. I decided, I needed to get a job. I was doing theater and I thought, I can still do theater and work during the day and maybe rehearse at night. And if they'll let me off during the day for daytime rehearsals, let's see if I can make this work out. Where else, what better place to go but then a performing arts building? And at the time, Rich Laudeman was at the helm there. And I knew Rich because I had done a production at a community showcase in Whiting at Vogel's restaurant when they would do shows back in the banquet area back there. And I reached out to him, or I walked in there, excuse me, one day. And I just said, hey, are you guys hiring? And he was like, yeah, we need somebody for the box office. So he hired me for it. And I started working in the box office. And then from there, I eventually started developing systems for it to run a little bit smoother. And they made me manager. And it just kind of went from there. So I spent 8 years with them. Yeah. And I worked from that and box office manager. And then I became group sales coordinator.
For Theater at the Center. Yeah.
Theater at the Center. And what else did I do there, Larry? I don't remember.
I know you did a lot there. I mean, and what people didn't realize that we were a Ticketmaster outlet, and that was a whole universe of doing stuff. I mean,
yeah. Oh, that was a whole other animal in itself.
I mean, not just selling our tickets, but selling every other ticket, like the Cubs games. And I remember those long lines when certain things would go on sale. And
Grateful Dead. Remember when the Grateful Dead were? Oh, my gosh. And we were cash only. So the money that was flying around all over the place was crazy. And I had to have security eventually.
Yeah. I remember. Good old Frank, our security guy.
And Gary Bonino.
Oh, yeah, Gary, too. So, and it's ironic that with Theater at the Center, you never were on stage there while you were there.
No, I wasn't allowed.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
Oh, no. Yeah, I wasn't allowed because that was brought up when Gary Giacomo came on. There was a little bit of conversation about me auditioning for the shows. And Mybeck wouldn't let me do it because he said it was a conflict of interest.
Oh, I'm sad about that. I didn't quite know that. I didn't know if you chose not to do that. So because I arrived in 92, like when we had, remember Martin was the director there. Yeah. Yeah. And that was an interesting thing. And I remember the one thing that when we were doing some children's show, and he wanted to have really forged swords, and we had $300 in the prop budget.
I remember that.
And so I went to John. I said, "This blows the whole budget." I said, and of course, this is where I learned the John Mybeck thing. Is he, of course, then went around me and approved it, to be the big magnanimous. Oh yeah, I'll go ahead. And I'm thinking, you don't have to be that authentic. But Martin was that way, so it was an interesting.
Yep. No, I remember that.
Yeah. I was not a happy camper as production
manager.
I'm sure
you were not.
Yeah. And because I was told, you need to keep them on budget. Like, okay, I will. Of
course, yeah. I know.
So after Theater at the Center, you were there until, you were there a little bit after me. So
98. I was there till 98.
Okay.
But you left after me, didn't you?
I left in 98 also.
Oh.
Well, it was a very good year.
Yeah, clearly it was a very good year. Well, I had, at that point then, there was, it was starting to kind of like, I just knew it was time. I just knew it was time to move on. And a friend had mentioned to me that about American Girl was opening a retail store in Chicago, and that they would have a theater in the store, a live musical with little girls and with some adults. And I was like, well, that's crazy. I've never heard of anything like that. But she said they're looking for people, for management people. And I was like, I'm going to apply. So I did, and sent my resume in and went in for like 2 or 3 interviews downtown and got offered the position of theater supervisor.
But that wasn't all you were there. Then as it developed, you started doing other things with the American Girl Theater.
I did. Then I was promoted to theater manager, so that was up in pay, because now I had manager in my title.
Not just a title bump, actually some more money.
No. Then my boss said to me, "I don't understand why we're paying somebody to do all of our casting because you've got theater experience. Why don't you do it?" And I said, "I'm so glad you said that because I was going to say the same thing to you, that I should be doing this and I can do it on the cheaper for you." So I started doing the casting for it and would handle the whole casting process, where we would do that at least one big call out for girls to replace, one big one at least once a year, but maybe twice a year, depending on how many girls we cycled through,
Sure.
like how tall they would get, or as we would like to say, how big their boobs would get. We'd see 300 plus girls in a given day, and we would do 2 days of open call auditions. So we're looking at 600 and some girls that would come across our stage in 2 days. And then we'd have a day of callbacks. It was a whole week-long process. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, this is just an exhausting process that needs to be streamlined somehow. So I figured out a way and worked with the team to develop an audition form. And we created a line where I had different people assigned at the table to do specific things. One of which was that they had to come in with their 16 bars of music, and they had to show us exactly what 16 bars they were doing. If they couldn't figure that out, we would help them do that. So that helped us get them in. They knew exactly what they were doing, and we got them out. And if I wanted to talk to them any further or make sure that they could do a dance step a certain way, then it was up to me to take the extra time with each child, or it was up to my music director if he wanted to work with them a little bit more. One thing I'd like to mention, one of our music directors, who was our original one when we opened, was Jamie Schmidt. And Jamie went on to become the conductor for and music conductor for Liza Minnelli whenever she would perform live. And then he was on tour for many years with Lion King. I'm sorry for my dog right now.
Wanting that belly rub.
Yeah.
She wants a belly rub. He was on tour as the conductor for Lion King.
Okay.
And then the last, before Broadway shut down, he was with Aladdin.
Okay.
He was the conductor for Aladdin. Mm-hmm.
So he's
gone on really great things. Yeah.
You ended up being the artistic director there.
I eventually became artistic director. They actually finally said, she's been here a long time, so let's give her the artistic
big title.
Right. Well, and what had happened too was with our opening of New York and with our opening of Los Angeles, my boss then became the guy that was head over all three of them instead of just being the head of Chicago. So I got his job essentially.
And did you coordinate anything with the other venues elsewhere, or are you just focused on the Chicago one?
I was sent out to New York to help open New York, and I did the casting for New York. One really cool story I have of that, there was a young actress who came in and had this glorious voice, just glorious. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, she's like 12 years old. How is a 12-year-old singing like this? And she was tall. She was kind of tall, and her face was older looking, but she was amazing. And when we got into the casting process, the artistic director in New York and my boss, we were sitting and we were going over headshots and yes, no, and doing all of that. And they came to hers and they were like, yeah, I don't know. She's really great, but she wouldn't last very long with us. She wouldn't be a long-term hire. And I looked at them and I said, are you kidding me? I said, why would you pass up this voice? I said, even if she lasts us 6 months, she is a voice that we need to have on our stage. And my boss and they went, oh, you're right. All right, let's hire her. He reminded me of this not long ago, that I was the one responsible for putting her on the stage. And she went on to be the daughter in Next to Normal on Broadway with Alice Ripley.
Wow.
And nominated for a Tony Award.
There you go.
Her name's Jennifer Damiano.
Good spotting of
That's
talent.
a good casting director.
You're listening to Art on the Air with our guest Shelley Crosby on WVLP 103.1 FM and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM.
But I also did New York, I also did Los Angeles, and helped open. I didn't help open Los Angeles, but I helped open New York.
And, so the American Girl, there's kind of a story about that, how it sort of devolved. I think it has to do with Mattel or something like that.
Well, it was mostly when Mattel came on board, things got much more corporate.
Right.
So we started to feel a little pinch. And, we always, how there's a certain time of year every year with a corporation when, the financials are being looked at. And that was for us was in February. And we always said, if we can get through February, our theater is good to still go. Like, they're still not looking at us as being a loss. We did very good business, but, we took up a lot of what they call retail space. And, the retail people could, in their vision, they're looking at it and going, oh, I could put this here and I could put that here. All that stuff that's taking up that gigantic lobby that we have could be so much more. So surviving February was always a nice hump to get over. But what happened was the decision was made to move us to Water Tower Place, the entire store. And I was already in the process of hiring designers, and they had actually even started digging out the lower part for the stage to go at the place. And we got the word that New York, or that Los Angeles, was closing. Mm. And we were like, is the hammer happening? Primarily it was because we had been told, Los Angeles never really took off the way I think they had hoped it would. So we're like, okay, all right, we get that. Then what was happening was the actors, in the adult actors in our New York production, were being courted by Equity to become Equity because we were a non-equity theater. And we paid very well for a non-equity theater. And so it just got a little ugly there. And I think ultimately what happened personally for New York was that it all came down to the dispute with Equity and the financials associated with that. Still, Chicago I kept thinking, we're fine. We're doing good. We're okay. We're all right. We're doing great business. And sure enough, February came and I got the phone call that we were closing as well. And they gave us until September, just after Labor Day, to finish it all out. So we had a 10-year run.
That's pretty good, though, really, when you think about it.
Not so shabby, right?
And a lot of our audience probably don't even remember the American Girl dolls. Are they even still around anymore? They
are. The store is still up and running. They have, because of COVID, I believe, they have closed some of the offshoots that the retail part eventually developed a smaller scaled version of the store with just with no theater, but had like a little small cafe in it and was all retail. But they are still around. But there's so many people, I think, that don't really realize that we had that theater. No. And it was such a gem.
Then from there, you landed somewhere more local in Hammond.
I did. After I lost that job, my friend Jeff Casey, who runs the Towle Theatre in downtown Hammond, approached me and said, hey, we want to start a education department here. And what do you think about coming on board? So thought about it and I was like, all right. So I went and started doing that.
Long commute.
It was a long commute, Esther. That was a lot. You know what? Going there wasn't as bad. It was the coming home.
Oh, no
So
kidding.
if I didn't leave by a certain time, I was screwed.
Well, yeah, it
Like,
depends. I remember
Yeah.
my trek from Indiana to Chicago during construction was 3 hours each way. So
there were times when it got to be that way. And there was remember the big snowstorm that closed Lakeshore Drive? Do you remember that?
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, I got caught in that, but I had managed to turn right at Roosevelt. I said, I am not going to turn. I'm not going to make that corner. And I turned right at Roosevelt and wormed my way home. But that was still a 4-hour drive home for me.
Wow. So
And
what
I
are,
drove a stick shift.
so what were some of the things
no.
that you did while you were there? You had some very innovative things that you did at the Towle.
I did some great things at the Towle. I was able to start a program called Breakfast and Books, which was a literacy and helping to feed kids who were lower income that struggled with getting proper food in their lives. I started Tights, the Towle Youth Theater Ensemble, and I did a program called Star in the Works, which introduced a lot of the composers and lyricists to kids that they didn't even know about, and did some really wonderful. Oh, and I wrote 2 shows for them. I wrote a musical called Pickle Chiffon with Jeff Casey. Jeff and I wrote Pickle Chiffon Pie, which was adapted from a children's book. And I wrote the music and I wrote the lyrics, and my friend Evan Ray wrote the music. And then I wrote Robot Mike, which was based on a short story by artist David Lee Sisko.
Very good. I remember sometimes I'd have my kids when I was at Munster, and they said, well, we got something to do at Towle. I'm like, wait a minute. Because, we were doing crazy 4 productions a year at Munster, 2 straight plays, 2 musicals. I mean, who does that?
Yeah.
And then Carolyn was directing 2 middle school shows. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Right. We didn't mean to be in direct competition, Larry.
No,
we didn't mean to.
I used to.
We were doing the cool stuff too.
Yeah.
So
I would tease some of my kids about hey, you got a theater program here. But anyway, that was great. I always encouraged them in the summer to go out and get involved in theater, because I said I'm not doing summer stock, because I said I do theater, 10 months out of the year. So from there you went to the Den, which is, tell us a little bit about that. The Den is a multiplex of black box theaters, and I got involved there by assistant directing a show for a friend, and then just kind of from there got corralled into becoming the general manager and helping set up processes. The Den has been around since 2010, and it's going well. I mean, it was a struggle getting through shut down with the COVID, and we continue to be shut down, but we are looking to reopen at the end of September. We are currently bringing in quite a few comedy acts, but I encourage everybody to check it out on the dentheater.com and see what we've got coming up. And you're powering back a little bit from what you've been doing there. You've gone through a whole thing from that assistant directing thing all the way up into high-level administration. So you're stepping back just a little bit right now.
Yes, I've stepped away as the general manager, but I'm staying on board just to maintain the HR portions of things.
Excellent. So what are you looking forward to?
Any acting in your future?
Yeah, any acting?
No, I know. I'm done. I am done. Everybody says that to me, and I'm really done. Yeah.
I kind of say that about directing too. I think I'm done, because Esther's my new work wife, so I have to do this every week. So,
yeah.
Anything else you're looking forward to doing? In any kind of thing, whether personal or business, or
I'm always looking to just find more creative outlets for myself, Blair. That's what I'm ready to explore now, is just the what's next.
Yeah, it's always fun to do that. What next? And briefly, tell us about.
What other things do you do other than what you have been doing? Do you have a painting practice or some other interests?
Well, other than
outside
the
of theater?
podcast, I've been producing the Cigarettes, Tab, and Tampons podcast. So, that doesn't take an enormous amount of time, but I do try to devote quite a bit of time to it. So there's that. But I've got, other things that I like. I love to write. I want to find a way to incorporate that more into a way of making some money.
Yeah, a little children's CD would be really cute. I mean, the belly rub thing is just like so adorable.
Esther, you have no idea how many times my friends say, why aren't you recording all of these goofy songs that you make up? And I say, because you know who would find them funny? My friends and maybe my family.
Yeah. Well, we have
my family just rolls their eyes.
Yeah, I get a lot of that too. Any final thoughts? We have just a few moments here left.
No, I'm just so pleased to have had the opportunity to participate and to talk to the two of you. It's kind of weird to sit and go over your life like this.
I know. Well, we appreciate you coming on Art of the Air. That's Shelley Crosby, longtime my friend, and I hope now new Esther's friend, and learning all about her. Actress, a theater manager, artistic director, administrator, and just an all-around great person. Shelley, thank you so much for coming on Art of the Air.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Art in the Air, and we'd like to thank our guests this week on WVLP 103.1 FM and Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, our weekly program covering arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. Art in the Air is heard every Friday at 11 a.m. and rebroadcast Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP. Art in the Air streams live at WVLP.org and is rebroadcast on Monday at 5 p.m. Plus is also heard on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM every Sunday at 7 p.m., also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Thanks again to Greg Kovach, WVLP station manager, and Tom Maloney, vice president of radio operations for Lakeshore Public Radio. Our theme music is by Billy Foster with a vocal by Renee Foster. Art in the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant and the National Endowment for the Arts. Underwriters for Art in the Air, Walt Breidinger of Paragon Investments and Mary Levan, Arts Patron. Art in the Air is always looking for financial support. We'd like to thank our current supporters. If you're looking to support Art in the Air, Esther and I especially would invite you to become an underwriter of this program in particular. We have information on our website at breck.com/AOTA. You can find out support information there. So don't just be an Art on the Air listener. Become a supporter or underwriter in whatever amount you're able to do so we continue to bring you this great content and this great local programming. And like I say every week, don't give till it hurts. Give till it feels good. And you'll feel so good about supporting Art on the Air. Information about Art on the Air is available at our website, breck.com/AOTA. That's Breck, BRECH.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our show is available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for information about upcoming shows and interviews. If you're interested in being a guest or sending us information about your arts-related event or exhibit, please email us at aota@breck.com. That's aota@breck, BRECH.com, or contact us through our Facebook page. Your hosts were Larry Breckner and Esther Golden, and we invite you back next week for another episode of Art on the Air.
Aloha, everyone. Have a splendid week.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.